Hey, what's up, guys? My name is Nick Trigili, IFBB Pro. I turned pro at the age of 25. I competed since I was 16 years old. I was born and raised in New Jersey. I got involved with training and fitness at the age of 18 full-time. Once I got certified in them, it became a passion of mine. I absolutely love helping people. So that's why I wanted to team up with Generation Iron to bring you guys more information about supplements, training, and nutrition. I hope you guys enjoy this series. So I put together a quick list that I think is something you guys can all relate to. These subjects are not in any particular order. I just kind of rambled them off in whatever order I felt like. And I feel like once you guys hear these, they're probably all going to ring a bell. At least you've heard them at least one time in your lifetime of being an athlete or a bodybuilder or a fitness-oriented person. So the first one I wrote down was bodybuilders only drink protein shakes. And this could reference to anybody, not just bodybuilders. People think that protein shakes is literally what builds our physique, and it's literally the foundation of what we do. They think we live drinking those every single meal, and obviously it's just part of our workout and nutritional plan. It's obviously not the base of anything. They're supplements, so they're supplementation for something that we can't have through food. They're not meal replacement. And, I'm just trying to raise awareness so that people understand that this is not what creates a bodybuilder, because if that was that easy, everybody be drinking protein shakes, everybody looking like the Hulk, or something like that. Have a ripped physique and have a physique that we'd love to desire. But we all know that we just use them for case-by-case situations. The next one is bodybuilders love to pose and look at themselves in the mirror. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm a very vain person too. I like to look in the mirror. I like to pose, especially when I'm in shredded physique and I'm looking like my best ever. Not really when I'm soft and puffy in the off season, but we use the mirror to pose. Yes, and I must admit that I'm a vain person, like I told you guys, but it's part of bodybuilding. We don't have any hair. We usually have no leg hair, arm hair, pubic hair, armpit hair. But posing is a form of isometric contraction. So it teaches us how to have muscle control literally at its best. So this teaches us how to, contract the muscles when we're training. It teaches us how to breathe and pose on the stage. So it's not something that we just necessarily do because we like to look at ourselves, which obviously is part of it, but it's not the full reason we're doing it. It requires a lot of practice. So the best posers are usually the ones that repeatedly do this on a daily basis. It's not something they do, once in a blue moon. I remember when I was the deep and the darkest of my bodybuilding, I would pose every single day for at least a half hour in the gym or at home in the mirror or something. The next one is bodybuilders are heartless and ruthless. Now, we may look like rough and rugged from the outside, these big bear-looking men that are gorilla-looking, usually have, big muscles everywhere, legs and everything. We almost look like animals. So people think that we literally we have hard interiors too, but just from my personal experience, and I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate, and don't get me wrong, there's always the few that ruin it, but for the most part, most bodybuilders are pretty soft on the inside. What they usually call us teddy bears. Obviously we've gone through some dark moments. Probably that's why we're bodybuilders. So we're very understanding of others. But we're definitely not mean people. And we're usually the last people in the room to want to fight anybody. And I can second that, because usually it's the little guys in the room that want to have something to prove, or they feel like they have an ego that they want to beat up the biggest guy in the room so they can literally, brag to somebody about it. But we're usually the last people that want to fight or cause any problems. We're usually the mediators, to be honest. In most scenarios where I've been and there's been outbreaks, people usually look to me to help them out, to be like, hey, Nick, control this for us. So that's one thing we're definitely not. Bodybuilders are bulky and not flexible. So listen, I am not going to sit here and tell you that I can do splits and handstands and cartwheels, but a lot of my friends can. And what that comes from is just repetitiveness of being, in the gym and stretching, because it's something we add to our programs in the gym. Is something we do when we cool down, we stretch. So just because the muscle is bigger in size doesn't necessarily mean the person doesn't have less range of motion. But the problem is a lot of people don't take care of this in the gym. And If you don't start out doing this and don't make it a habit in the gym, it's usually going to become a problem down the road where your muscles get so tight that it's almost impossible to move. So what I like to do is I always kept it in my regimen at least 10, 15 minutes a day when I went in the gym, to stretch when I was done cooling down, to make sure I have full range of motion. So obviously injuries, and obviously you don't want to be walking around looking like a robot. That's another thing too. Most people, they say we walk around like, we're Oompa Loompas, but if you're flexible, it's going to lead to a longer, less injury-free career. And obviously, you sleep better, you feel better. You see guys like Kai Green, Melvin Anthony, Lee Robrada, Bob Paris, Ed Corney. They all are extremely flexible guys. And not just a couple guys. Flex Wheeler even could do splits on stage. So my long-lost friend, Dallas McCarver, could do a split, and he was 350 pounds. So size doesn't mean anything. Bodybuilders only eat boring food and chicken breasts all day. So first, we have to understand what's boring, because some people's taste buds are different than others. Some people like to eat bland food. If bland tasting food is what people think is boring, but it's actually good for you. Unfortunately, the stuff that tastes good isn't necessarily always the most healthiest. So unfortunately, in our world that we live in, everything that we always crave and want, sugars, fats, all that kind of stuff, is always the worst for you. But it's not something we only eat. Obviously, there's other things that make up a nutritional chart, proteins, fats, carbs, which not chicken breast does not always have as a nutrition part of it. We have to consume other foods to have a balanced nutrition. And also that obviously our bodies function off of other nutrients that, come from red meat and vegetables and carbohydrates and fat sources. So, but people think just the stigma is chicken, but it's actually the thing I don't ever eat anymore at all, because I've been so sick of it, and it's something I don't even want to look at anymore. So I found other ways around it, having fish, turkey, egg whites, substitutes of that nature for chicken. Next one is, this was always one of my favorites because, I don't like when people judge me, especially right off the bat, because I'm a big person. So this one always hits home the most. Bodybuilders are dumb, stupid, and big for nothing. So I'm sure a lot of you can sit there and say, man, I wish I could have $1 or 10 cents for every time I heard this one, because, this is one of the most popular ones. And people probably are like, no way someone calls you dumb to your face. I mean, for the most part, they don't say dumb or stupid, but you can tell that they probably think you're less educated than them just because you have muscle. But the number one thing I say to them is, like, why are you coming to me advice? Why are you coming for me for advice? Why are you asking me about fitness and nutrition and how to train and so on if you think I'm so stupid? What are you asking me for then? What's the edge here? Like, what are you trying to gain from that? So one of the things I wrote down was, all the science that involves, reading, research, and experimentation over the years. We have to learn how to train, obviously the body the correct way, the anatomy of the body, the nutritional part of the body, how the body works and functions. It's something that we have to become like almost experts at if we want to have maximum results in the gym. But, we always have to prove them wrong by saying, hey, our bodies are a work of art, and this is where our hard work goes. Sometimes people put it into maybe drawing pictures, or they're doctors, or they're whatever, they're lawyers, but we put our hard work into our body, and it obviously doesn't, it's a different type of look than most people would probably see normally, so that's why they're not, used to it. But this is one I'm going to leave to the end, because it's actually pretty funny. But the next one I have is bodybuilders' muscles will sag when they grow older. So this is a common topic I hear about in the celebrity world, especially about Arnold Schwarzenegger, Lou Ferrigno, all the guys that have been mainstream, Sylvester Stallone. And they say anyone that's saggy, that they're, because their muscles, where is it going to go? But the thing is, fat cells never can become muscle cells. Okay, listen, and muscle cells can never become fat cells. So therefore, that explains the anatomy of the body right there, that when you get older, all that muscle you have doesn't turn to fat. So therefore, the people that are fat are going to turn to fat. The people that have muscle don't turn to fat. yes, they might get saggy skin because they stop training or they fall off the nutrition part or they lose size, but that doesn't get saggy because they have all that muscle. It's definitely a misconception there where even when I was younger, I thought by having all that muscle on me, where's it going to go? What am I going to look like? It's definitely a concern. But once I obviously researched enough and educated myself that that's not the answer, most retired bodybuilders usually are still in the gym for the most part. If they don't have a consuming work life or a high demand with family or they get injured over their career, most guys actually stay in the gym. Like Arnold trains every single day, and so does Lou Ferrigno. Those guys are monsters. So one of the last ones I have here, which I think is quite entertaining, and I find it this was a big issue coming up when I was younger, and it hurt my feelings more than anything because when I started bodybuilding in high school, it's not your normal thing that you do. Most people are out, with their friend's house, they're partying, they're with their girlfriends, their boyfriends, whatever they're doing. And the last thing they're doing is in the gym eating chicken and working out and shaving their bodies and everything else. So right away, there's a stigma that, you might not be a straight guy or you might not be, as secure as the rest of the guys. Or you're doing all these things to look good. But the one thing that they always said was, oh, you better be careful, Nick. You're going to have a small penis. You're going to have small balls if you take steroids. Well, let me tell you this. By the looks of the locker room when I was younger in high school, I was not lacking in that department. And all my friends that were bodybuilders, we always talk about this as a joke. Like, we're usually the last people you probably assume that would have a, what. So that whole stigma with having a small penis is the totally last thing on the planet that we would normally have. Obviously, it's an illusion. We have big legs, we have big arms, we have big body parts. So obviously, that center point on our body, if we're standing there and we're butt naked, it's obviously going to look a little smaller than normal because everything else around it. But even then, you have to be literally a very, very, very naive person to think that just because you're using some type of drug that builds muscle, mind you, and your penis is a muscle at the end of the day, why would it shrink? And if you do any type of research, if you're smart enough to do any type of research and read about the foods that supposedly increase your manlyhood, we're eating all of them every single day. So how could it shrink? Yes, we lower test production and we lower sperm count for that temporary time that we're on synthetic testosterone, but it doesn't shrink the actual muscle of your body. So that's one of the last things that I think was, the icing on the cake for this episode. But this wraps up the episode of Bodybuilding Coach. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to Generation Iron. You could also follow me at Nick World Class on Instagram. And don't forget to send us all your questions at info@generationiron.com to have a chance to answer on a future episode. Thanks again, guys, for listening. This is Nick Trigili, and I'm signing out.